good camp. Chris Wright, Jimmy Scheidler, all those guys are going to have to make plays. And I never like to go into a game or a season saying the burden's on this one playmaker. With Freddie in the position he plays, it's the nature of his deal. He's going to have that a lot of one-on-one coverage, and he's going to have to consistently beat that. And if he does that and he starts getting doubled and people start rolling corners or inverting safeties to him, now it's going to be Tyrone and Chris and Ray, and those guys are going to have to make their plays. And if they make their plays, then the box gets a little thinner, and now Willie's going to have a chance to do the things he needs to do. So, good offenses have the ability to do both. I feel we've got players in place, and now we've got to go out and execute.
For the fans that show up on Thursday, what can they expect to see out of your team?
Hopefully a team that plays hard. The one thing that we've preached to our guys all along is, good football teams are tough. They're physically tough. They're mentally tough. They're able to overcome adversity, and they always play hard, regardless if they're up 14 or down 14. And the one expectation that I have of our guys is they play hard. That film never gets turned on, and somebody stays on the ground or somebody changes their speed. That they always take pride that they're never that guy that's not playing hard. And I think that has been one of our biggest challenges, is just getting guys to realize what playing hard is. But I think we've made strides. And we need to do that this whole month with the teams that we play. We've got at the very minimum play hard and play with great effort. And if we do that, I think we give ourselves a great chance.
Coach, you kind of touched on how much of an advantage is it to have your first game at home?
It's great. You always like to play at home. Your home field should be an advantage for you. It's the same field that we practice on every day. And hopefully there's a lot of orange and brown in the stands, that it feels like a home crowd advantage. And hopefully we can get that student record we're pushing for.
Dave, I'll warn you that your comment, I'm going to be sending some stuff to the TV station down that covers Troy, so they'll be seeing this, so be careful what you say. But how would you compare the Sun Belt Conference to Mid-American Conference? Different styles or pretty similar? You probably haven't.
I haven't studied the Sun Belt enough. We've just studied Troy. Anytime it's a fast leg now. It is a lot of wide open offenses, a lot of tremendous skilled players. The one thing that sticks out on their film is just how fast they are. Now, a lot of the film we've watched, you see them going up 31-3 at LSU. You watch them with the football in the fourth quarter against Ohio State, 14-10. You see them with a 10-point lead, in the New Orleans Bowl against a great Southern Miss team. And they ran with these teams. And that's what really sticks out about Troy, is how well they run. And as impressive as their 8 wins were last year, their 3 losses were almost as impressive as their wins. I mean, to be able to be on top of LSU 31-3 with 6 minutes left in the third quarter tells you what type of skill and talent they have. And certainly Ohio State was a good team last year. And I mean, they had the ball in the second half in the fourth quarter with a chance to take the lead. And they have played with that caliber of team year in, year out. So they're used to going into the Big Ten. They're used to going to the SEC. They've played in bowl games. They have a very experienced team. And again, they're a good football team. They're Troy. You say the Sun Belt. Well, this is clearly the class of the Sun Belt. And there's a lot of BCS teams that would be a much easier first draw than Troy.
So there'll be a load offensively. You guys got to stop them defensively, keep the points down. Is that the biggest chore you have?
Well, they're an excellent defensive team too. These 2 defensive ends. I mean, I would imagine that these guys next spring will probably both get drafted. They're that good. I mean, the ends are outstanding. Lyman Sheffield, and their middle linebacker Lee is a really good player. And the secondary, they're new. But just based on the film we've seen, they have some guys that can run. And what happens when you can run the way they run, a lot of the little mistakes you make up front, the second level get covered up pretty quickly. When you can run, you can survive 2nd and 15s, and you can convert 3rd and 12s. The amount of times on a 3rd and long, they'll take a short pass on a crossing route, and the guy will just crisscross the field and outrun everybody to the other sidelines and convert it. Again, against good football teams. This isn't against teams we haven't heard of. They were doing these things against LSU, against Ohio State. So they're a very skilled team.
You mentioned the defensive ends and then Boris Lee, the linebacker. Who do you try to, I guess, kind of neutralize there? Or what do you try? Who do you give more attention to?
Pick your poison. I mean, a lot of times you'll play a team that has one good defensive end. So you may slide the protection to him. You may keep a tight end to his side. You may chip him with a back. Those are all things you can do to negate a good pass rusher. It's hard to do that to both of them. I mean, you can't slide the protection both ways. We're going to have to see how the matchups play out during the game. And option one is you hope your tackles can hold up. With guys that talented, to just say we're going to go out there the whole game and be able to block them one-on-one, I don't know if too many teams in the country can do that against these two.
And then Willie Jeter, talk about him. I know you said he had a good camp, but what has he done to kind of, take himself to the next level, and how do you use him in the offense? How do you get him his touches?
He can do everything for us. I mean, Willie can carry the ball. He can catch the ball. Willie's a very underrated pass blocker, too. You meet Willie, and he's not the tallest of guys or the biggest of guys, but what Willie is he's tough. He will stick his nose in there, and he'll pass pro against 230-pound linebackers, and he really has no fear. He's a tough football player, and Willie's somebody we trust a lot. So people will talk about Freddie and Tyrone, but Willie is as key to us as anybody in our program right now offensively.
And then I know, looking at the scrimmages you've really tried to make this team more physical. So how does that play into what you're trying to do against Troy?
Well, I think any good football team has to be physical, but I think when you talk about being physical, you're talking about winning the battle up front. That we've got to create a new line of scrimmage. We've got to be able to pass protect efficiently. And on defensively, we've got to be able to create a new line of scrimmage. We've got to be disruptive. We've got to get in the backfield. When they run their zone plays, the cut can't be happening 1 or 2 yards across the line of scrimmage. We've got to force the back to cut back or bubble before he wants to. And that's where a real key to us is our defensive line has to play well. We've got some experienced guys in the secondary. We've got some experienced guys at linebacker. I think we have a really talented defensive line that's young and hasn't played a lot. And these guys are going to need to play up to their ability level. We can't wait 3 or 4 weeks for those guys to play at the level they're capable of. And what we saw in camp is when they do that, we were a pretty good defense. The second scrimmage, our defensive line really came out and played hard, and it showed. The first scrimmage, they didn't play to that level of intensity, and that showed. So I think that's a real key to our season is getting our young defensive line to play hard, be physical, play to the level of their ability. And if they do that, we have a chance to have good defense.
So then if the defensive line is so young, and you can't, wait those few games for them to get there, do you rely on the secondary to help kind of lead the defense?
Well, any defense has to be, if you're weak in one area, that area gets pretty exposed. So they got to play well. It's as simple as that. I mean, they've got to play well because I don't care how good you are in the back end, you can't cover people for 5 and 6 seconds. So we've got to get pressure, and if the quarterback has a chance to hold on to it for more than 3 seconds, as good as I think we are in the secondary, it's hard for people to hold up that long.
Coach, you had last year Coach Brandon suspended Lorenzi for a game, and he was unable to serve that suspension because of his injury. Will he be able to play under your regime, or does that suspension carry over?
What suspension?
Robert Lorenzi.
Lorenzi's cleared to play.
Okay.
Is P.J. Mahone going to be all right?
Yeah, he's practiced all week. We just held him out of that one scrimmage for precautionary reasons, but he's been out of practice with no red jersey on, and he's been able to do everything. So PJ's good to go.
Anything else?
Just one. Understanding that you're not the coach up there, but as a Division I coach up in Michigan, you're having some problems. Is it a fine line to walk between getting extra effort from your players and NCAA compliance?
I mean, it's pretty clear what the rules are, that you're not allowed to have more than 20 hours a week. You can't ever be more than 4 hours a day, mandatory time, and you have to give them a day off a week. So we give our players what their in-season calendar is going to be the very first meeting we have, and then we don't deviate from it. So, now players do come up and watch extra film, and it's part of playing Division I football, but we can never make that mandatory, and they know that and we know that.
Thanks, Coach.